Welcome, traveler. Before we begin, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts quiet like ripples settling on a calm river. Wherever you are, perhaps lying in bed, perhaps already half dreaming, know that this is your time to drift through the hush of history. Tonight, we wander far back, beyond the ticking of modern clocks, beyond the hum of city lights, to a land where marble caught the morning sun, and sandals traced paths that would shape the world. A place both familiar and distant, a place called Rome. Imagine yourself there. The air is warm and dry, carrying the scent of olive leaves and stone. The hills rise gently in the distance, their slopes bathed in the gold of an ancient dawn. The river Tiber flows nearby, slow and steady, like time itself, unhurried and endless. In this story, you will walk beside shepherds and scholars, artisans and emperors. You will hear the quiet rhythm of a civilization being built not through conquest, but through dream and devotion, through the soft pulse of human hands creating something meant to last. So, rest now. Let the past unfold around you, not as a lesson, but as a lullaby. For tonight, the stones of ancient Rome will whisper their story to you, one gentle echo at a time. Imagine yourself standing on a gentle slope overlooking a river that glimmers in the early morning light. The air is soft, filled with the scent of damp earth and wild rosemary. A mist hangs low over the water, curling and lifting as the sun begins to rise. You are on the banks of the Tiber, a quiet river that winds its way through the heart of central Italy. It is a time before maps and empires, before marble and monuments. The land around you is wild and open, dotted with oak trees and tiny settlements made of wood and straw. Shepherds guide their flocks along the hills, their songs echoing faintly across the valley. Life here is simple, a rhythm of sunrise and sunset, of planting and harvest, of quiet faith in nature's steady course. You can almost feel the heartbeat of the earth beneath your feet. The soil is rich and dark, shaped by countless seasons of rain and sunlight. Somewhere nearby, a mother calls to her child, her voice carrying through the cool air. The sound of a river gently brushing against stone fills the silence between words. This is how the world of Rome began, not with the roar of armies or the clash of steel, but with the steady murmur of ordinary lives. The people who live here are known as the Latins, one of many small tribes scattered across the Italian peninsula. To the north lie the Etruscans, mysterious and skilled, masters of metalwork and ritual. To the south, across the hills, dwell the Greeks, their colonies shining like small jewels along the coast. But here, in this fertile valley, the Latins live humbly, tending to their fields, raising livestock, and offering small prayers to the spirits of earth and water. They believe the world is alive with unseen forces. Every tree, every spring, every gust of wind holds a spirit known as a numen. Before planting, they whisper to the god of the fields. Before crossing the river, they leave an offering on the shore, a handful of grain, a carved figure of clay, a wish carried by the current. Their lives are interwoven with reverence for the land that feeds them. In the evenings, as the sun dips behind the western hills, families gather around the fire. The light flickers softly across their faces, casting long shadows on the walls of their huts. They tell stories, old stories, that float between memory and myth. One story, more than any other, will echo through time. It is the tale of twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, children of destiny, suckled by a she-wolf and guided by the will of the gods. You can imagine it now, the faint glow of the fire, the storyteller's voice calm and low. Once, he says, the god Mars loved a mortal woman, and from their union were born two sons. Cast away by fate, they were rescued and raised by a wild creature, half mother, half legend. The listeners close their eyes and picture the wolf's eyes glinting in the moonlight, the twins nestled against her fur. They imagine the boys growing strong, their laughter echoing through the forests, unaware that one day they would shape the destiny of this land. The story of the twins is more than a legend. It is a reflection of Rome's own nature, wild yet destined, born from struggle, nourished by resilience. Whether or not the tale is true does not matter. What matters is the way it lingers in the hearts of the people. It gives them a sense of purpose, the belief that their small world might one day become something far greater. Days pass slowly in this early Rome. The seasons mark time more reliably than any calendar. Spring brings the sound of plows cutting through moist soil. Summer brings heat and harvest. In autumn, grapes are crushed for wine, and in winter, fires burn low while the wind hums through wooden beams. There are no emperors, no legions, no marble temples, only rhythm, routine, and quiet endurance. And yet, beneath this stillness, something begins to grow. The small settlements along the Tiber start to join together. Families become clans. Clans become communities. Wooden fences give way to walls of stone. Markets appear, where traders from distant lands exchange salt, pottery, and stories. You can almost hear the faint clinking of bronze coins, the soft murmur of barter, the laughter of children darting between stalls. The Tiber, gentle and unassuming, becomes a lifeline. Boats drift slowly downstream, carrying goods and gossip from one village to another. It is along this river that Rome takes root, not as a city, not yet, but as an idea, a meeting point, a bridge between worlds. By night, when the sky clears, you can see the stars reflected in the river's surface. The villagers look upward and find comfort in the constellations, tracing shapes of gods and heroes across the sky. Somewhere among those twinkling lights, they imagine their ancestors watching over them. They believe that destiny flows like water, slow, persistent, unstoppable. Centuries later, historians will argue about these early days. They will try to separate truth from legend, fact from faith. But if you stand here long enough, if you let the quiet of the landscape seep into you, you can sense the truth that matters most, that every great thing begins humbly. Every empire, every monument, every name carved into history began with the same fragile hope, the belief that life could be more than mere survival. You feel a breeze rise from the west, carrying the scent of time and soil. It moves through the grass, through the olive trees, through the hearts of the people who live here. It whispers of growth, of change, of a future that will stretch beyond the horizon. The shepherds do not know it yet, but their children's children will speak of law, of citizenship, of empire. They will pave roads across continents and raise arches that will defy centuries. They will shape art, language, and government for generations to come. But for now, here, in this first dawn, Rome is still young, still dreaming, and as the sun finally breaks above the hills, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold, the river glows with quiet promise. The first light touches the stones that will one day become streets, temples, and monuments. You breathe in the air, fresh and warm, and feel the pulse of something eternal, the slow awakening of a civilization that will call itself the Eternal City. The breeze softens, the sounds of the waking village fade into the distance. The world feels suspended, as though time itself is holding its breath. You close your eyes, listening to the rustle of leaves, the trickle of water, the steady rhythm of life beginning. And in that moment, you understand, history does not start with thunder. It begins quietly, with footsteps on soft soil, with dreams whispered to the wind, with the gentle unfolding of dawn over the hills of ancient Rome. Imagine the years flowing forward like the quiet current of the Tiber. The small settlements that once huddled along the river's edge have grown, slowly and steadily, into something more. Wooden huts become stone houses, paths become roads. What was once a village now breathes with the rhythm of a city. The people call it Roma. The air is fuller now, alive with the murmur of trade, the clang of metal, the scent of bread baked in clay ovens. Farmers lead their donkeys through narrow streets, bringing in baskets of grain and figs. Merchants spread their wares across simple stalls, fabrics dyed with rare color, olive oil glinting in the sun, honey sealed in small jars of clay. Children weave between the crowd, laughing, their sandals slapping softly against the worn stones. You walk through the forum, still humble but already important, the beating heart of Rome. Men in togas stand in clusters, their gestures wide and expressive. They argue and persuade. They speak of laws, of duty, of the right way to live. These are not kings or lords, but citizens, people who believe that power should be shared, that no one man should rule all. This is the birth of the Roman Republic, a new idea in a world still ruled by crowns. You pause near a column where a public speaker raises his voice. His tone is steady, measured. Around him, listeners nod, weighing each word. Here, decisions are not made by command, but by debate. It is messy, slow, sometimes frustrating, but it is freedom in its earliest form. The Romans, practical as ever, build their world with both ambition and structure. 2 consuls lead the state, their power limited by term and by the will of the Senate, a council of elders chosen for wisdom and reputation. Beneath them, the people, the plebeians, slowly fight for their own rights, for a voice that echoes in the marble halls of governance. You can almost feel the pulse of change, a city learning to govern itself, a society shaping the meaning of citizenship. In the evenings, when the bustle fades, the forum becomes quiet again. The last rays of sunlight turn the stones golden, and the voices that filled the day dissolve into the soft hum of night. Somewhere, a philosopher speaks to a small circle of students. They discuss virtue, honor, the balance between freedom and responsibility. Their words drift upward, mingling with the scent of olive smoke and cool night air. The Romans are builders, not only of walls and aqueducts, but of ideas. They believe that life should be ordered, disciplined, and purposeful. They see themselves as stewards of destiny, entrusted with creating something that will outlast them. As you wander further, you pass the workshops of craftsmen. Bronze glows in the flicker of firelight. Potters shape clay into vases and lamps. Every object has purpose, every design a touch of quiet perfection. The Romans admire beauty, but they value utility even more. A column is elegant only if it stands strong. A road is art only if it leads somewhere. You might pause beside one of those roads, wide, straight, and smooth. It stretches outward into the countryside like a promise. This, too, is part of Rome's genius, connecting people. Each stone is placed with care, each distance measured. Travelers can now move from one town to another in safety. Along these paths, ideas travel too of law, language, and shared destiny. It is a remarkable moment in time when identity begins to shift from tribe to state. To be Roman is no longer just to live here. It is to belong to something larger than yourself. Religion still weaves through every part of life. At dawn, smoke rises from small altars. Families offer wine and grain to the household spirits, the Lares and Pinities, guardians of hearth and home. In the temples, priests tend sacred fires that must never go out. The gods of Rome are many, yet they are near. Jupiter above, Vesta in the flame, Mars in the courage of the soldier. Every act, from planting a seed to opening a gate, carries a quiet prayer. In the distance, you hear the sound of training, the steady rhythm of wooden swords striking shields. Young men learn discipline, not for conquest yet, but for defense. The Romans believe in order, in protecting what is theirs, in maintaining peace through strength. They are not cruel, but they are determined. To them, struggle is not a burden, it is a teacher. The city grows busier, its streets more crowded. Markets hum with energy. Public baths are built where citizens gather to wash, to talk, to rest. It is here, in these calm pools of water, that ideas ripple of law, of art, of what it means to live well. You dip your hand into the imagined water and feel its warmth. The sound of laughter mingles with the quiet splash of fountains. Life, for many, is still simple, but no longer small. There is a quiet pride now, a sense of belonging to something eternal. As the years turn, Rome begins to look outward. Alliances are made, borders stretch, but within the heart of the city, the rhythm remains. Debate, duty, discipline. In the workshops, scribes press styluses into soft wax, recording laws that will one day be carved into stone, the 12 tables. These are not just rules, they are the foundation of fairness, a promise that every citizen, no matter how humble, will know where justice stands. At night, the lamps of the forum glow softly, like stars fallen to earth. You walk through the quiet streets, past walls that hold the warmth of the day. The city feels alive, almost breathing, not in chaos, but in harmony. There is still laughter, still song, still the rhythm of feet on cobblestone. Somewhere, a poet hums a verse under his breath. He writes of courage, of home, of the fragile beauty of time. His words will be forgotten for now, yet centuries later they will return, carried by voices that still speak Latin, the language being shaped even now in the mouths of these early Romans. You find yourself once more by the Tiber. The moon reflects softly on the water, the same river that cradled Rome's birth. Its surface ripples gently, carrying reflections of bridges and torches. You remember the shepherds of old, the myths of wolves and twins, and realize how far the dream has come. Rome is no longer just surviving. It is thinking, building, reaching. The city hums with purpose, an ordered energy that will one day stretch across continents. But tonight, it sleeps under the same stars as before, calm and eternal. You breathe in the night air, cool, fragrant, and still. The stones beneath your feet are warm with history. Somewhere deep within them, you can feel the quiet heartbeat of an idea that will not fade, that human order, reason, and resilience can outlast time itself. Rome, the Republic, has awakened. and with it, the world begins to listen. Imagine yourself standing once again in the heart of Rome, but the city has changed. The air feels busier now, heavier with voices, footsteps, and the mingling scents of spices, oil, and burning incense. The markets are larger, the streets more intricate. Merchants call out from their stalls, offering goods that have traveled farther than most Romans will ever see. Silk from the east shimmers in the morning light, soft as breath. Amphorae of olive oil gleam like liquid gold. From across the sea come jars of honey, glass beads from Alexandria, and scrolls of Greek philosophy. Rome, once a modest republic of farmers, has become a crossroad of the world. You walk among the crowd and listen. The voices are many, the languages strange yet familiar. There are traders from Carthage speaking in quick rhythms, sailors from Egypt with stories of the Nile, scholars from Athens who gesture with the ease of poets. Rome listens to them all. It does not fear difference. It studies, it absorbs it, reshapes it into something its own. If you pause near the Forum, you might notice how Greek columns now stand beside Roman walls, a blending of form and function, beauty and strength. Rome is learning from others, yet never imitating completely. Every influence is filtered through the Roman mind, practical and ordered. Where Greece sought perfection in thought, Rome seeks perfection in use. And yet, the Greeks leave their mark. Their gods, their myths, their art, all flow into the Roman world like wine filling a new vessel. Zeus becomes Jupiter, Athena becomes Minerva, Aphrodite becomes Venus. The names change, but the wonder remains. Temples rise, white against the blue Italian sky, their steps smooth beneath the feet of worshippers, bringing offerings of flowers and oil. Religion in Rome is not only faith, it is harmony. Each god has a place, each ritual a rhythm. As new deities arrive from distant lands, they are welcomed into the family of Rome's divinities, their stories woven into the city's vast tapestry. To live here is to live among gods of every accent, every horizon. In the evenings, the city glows softly. Oil lamps flicker in doorways. The sound of the lyre drifts through open windows. At a courtyard, you see a small group gathered around an elderly Greek scholar. His voice is low, melodic. He speaks of Plato and Aristotle, of the nature of justice, of the balance between reason and desire. Young Romans listen with curiosity, their eyes reflecting lamplight and thought. Philosophy takes root here, though in Roman soil it grows differently. For the Romans, thought must lead to action. Ideas are meant to serve the state, the family, the person. Thus, Stoicism blossoms, a way of living that teaches calm, virtue, and endurance. You can almost hear its quiet message echoing through the ages. Control what you can, accept what you cannot, and meet both fortune and misfortune with dignity. You leave the courtyard and wander toward the port. The Tiber carries ships heavy with goods from across the Mediterranean. The scent of the sea mingles with that of citrus and myrrh. The dock workers move in rhythm, lifting, calling, laughing. Every crate, every rope, every sail is part of a vast, unseen network that connects Rome to the world. Far away, across the water, our land's Rome has only begun to know Egypt with its golden deserts, the Levant with its spices and scrolls, and beyond them, Persia, mysterious and distant. Traders return with tales of lands where stars guide caravans and temples rise like mountains. Rome listens, learns, dreams. You picture yourself walking through a Roman home, not a palace, just a villa of a well-to-do citizen. The walls are painted with scenes of foreign landscapes, Greek heroes, Egyptian lotuses, hunters chasing lions under a desert sun. The household altar holds not only the familiar Roman gods, but small figurines of others, Isis from Egypt, Mithras from Persia, symbols of worlds both strange and sacred. This too is Rome's genius, to weave difference into unity. No idea is rejected simply because it is foreign. Instead, it is tested, reshaped, and made Roman. The city becomes a living mosaic, every stone from a different place, but fitting perfectly into one grand design. At the libraries, the scrolls multiply. Works of Greek philosophers, Egyptian mathematicians, and Carthaginian navigators line the shelves. Knowledge moves as freely as trade. You imagine the soft crackle of papyrus, the smell of ink and oil. A scribe dips his reed pen and begins to copy a verse from Homer, his handwriting steady and patient. Knowledge, to Rome, is a form of conquest, not by force, but by preservation. As night falls, the sky above the city darkens into indigo. The stars appear bright, countless, eternal. Somewhere in a temple courtyard, an astrologer lifts his eyes and traces patterns in the heavens. He believes that the universe speaks in quiet signs, that the gods communicate through light and motion. You follow his gaze and see what he sees. Orion rising, Venus shining low near the horizon, the faint band of the Milky Way stretching like silk across the night. For a moment, you feel as the Romans must have felt, small, curious, but part of something vast. Rome has become a city, not only of stone and rule, but of connection, a place where East meets West, where thought meets practice, where gods of many tongues share the same sky. And yet, amid all this exchange, the Roman character remains steady, practical, patient, grounded. A Roman engineer studies Greek geometry, not to dream, but to build. A Roman general learns from foreign tactics, not to admire, but to adapt. Rome listens to the world and replies in marble, in law, in language. In the quiet hours of the night, when the noise of the city fades, you can almost hear the whispers of those distant lands carried on the wind. Voices of philosophers, traders, and storytellers, all blending into the rhythm of the eternal city. The echoes of Greece, of Egypt, of the East, they become the pulse beneath Rome's marble skin. And as the moon rises over the hills, casting silver light upon the Tiber, you understand that what makes Rome powerful is not its walls or its armies, but its openness, its willingness to learn, to listen, and to transform. Rome is no longer a city apart. It is a mirror of the world, and through it, the world begins to see itself anew. Imagine walking beneath a sky so wide it seems to hold the world together. The air is warm, carrying the scent of sun-baked stone, olive groves, and distant sea wind. All around you, Rome hums with life, not just the city itself, but the countless towns, provinces, and ports that now bear its mark. You are standing in the heart of an empire. The roads stretch outward in every direction, long, straight, purposeful, each stone carefully placed, each curve designed with precision. From this point, the Via Appia runs south toward the sea, its edges lined with cypress trees and tombs of noble families. Travelers pass you by, merchants with carts of grain, soldiers in gleaming armor, poets with rolled scrolls tucked beneath their arms. Every journey begins and ends with Rome. There is a phrase people say with quiet pride: all roads lead to Rome, and they do. The empire breathes like a living body. The roads are its veins, the cities its organs, the people its pulse. As you walk, you notice the order of things, the way aqueducts arch gracefully over valleys, carrying clear water from the mountains to the city. The sound of flowing water follows you everywhere, trickling through fountains, filling baths, cooling courtyards. It is the heartbeat of civilization, the whisper of progress. In the city, marble glows in the midday light. Temples rise with calm authority, their columns reaching upward as if in conversation with the sky. Public buildings stand in perfect symmetry, planned not for one lifetime, but for eternity. Each stone seems to say, "We will endure." You wander into a marketplace, alive with motion. The air is rich with aroma, fresh bread, olive oil, figs, roasted nuts. Traders shout greetings, exchanging news as easily as coins. There are people from all corners of the empire: Syrians selling silk, Egyptians offering papyrus, Spaniards with barrels of wine. You hear Latin everywhere, but spoken with 1,000 accents. This is the beauty of Rome's growth, a unity born of diversity, a vast web of lives connected by trade, law, and shared rhythm. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it, the steady hum of civilization, the clatter of carts on cobblestones, the chatter of merchants, the faint song of a flute drifting from a tavern. It is not noise, but harmony, the sound of millions of people moving in quiet coordination. Beyond the city, the countryside flourishes. Villas dot the hills, their fields golden with wheat. Olive trees shimmer silver green under the sun. Farmers harvest their crops with steady hands, their tools simple yet efficient. Every region contributes something: Gaul with its vineyards, Egypt with its grain, Africa with its spices, Britain with its tin. The empire is vast, but it works as one, a careful balance of land and labor, of faith and order. At sunset, you find yourself standing before the Colosseum, not yet ancient, still new, still alive with the excitement of crowds. Its arches catch the fading light, turning the stone into shades of rose and amber. Inside, tens of thousands of voices merge into one vast breath. You do not hear violence here tonight, only awe, the echo of spectacle, of art, of shared experience. For the Romans, even entertainment is a form of unity. Nearby, in the great baths, people gather not only to cleanse, but to connect. The air is warm and fragrant with oil. Water flows from marble spouts into steaming pools. Conversations rise and fall like gentle waves. Politics, poetry, gossip, philosophy, all mixed together in this ritual of rest. It is here, perhaps more than anywhere, that Rome feels most human. You can almost hear laughter echoing softly against stone, the sound of lives unburdened by the weight of empire. Later, as the city cools and torches flicker to life, you wander toward a villa on the edge of the Palatine Hill. From its terrace, you can see the whole of Rome spread beneath you: temples, forums, aqueducts, the river winding like silver through the heart of it all. The city glows softly, alive but peaceful. Somewhere below, a scribe copies a new decree onto parchment by candlelight. A teacher recites lines of Virgil to sleepy students. A baker kneads dough for the next morning's bread. Millions of small, ordinary acts, each one contributing to the grandeur of something extraordinary. You look up, and the stars seem familiar now, as if the gods themselves have grown accustomed to this human order. The Romans build not only for themselves, but for the heavens. Every structure, every law, every poem is an offering to eternity. Far beyond the city, the frontiers stretch across mountains, deserts, and seas. In forts and outposts, Roman soldiers stand watch under different skies, patient, disciplined, silent. Their letters home travel for weeks along the roads you have walked. In those letters, they speak of missing Rome, the warmth, the food, the rhythm of home. Even far from the city, every Roman carries a piece of it within. The empire continues to grow, not in haste, but in purpose. It builds, organizes, refines. The Roman calendar measures time. Roman law defines justice. Roman architecture defines beauty. And through it all, life flows as steadily as the Tiber at times. You feel the faint whisper of pride in the air, a quiet certainty that this, surely, will last forever. How could something so vast, so carefully built, ever fade? But for now, there is no thought of decline, only the steady unfolding of greatness. Night returns, soft and blue. The lamps along the streets flicker like stars brought down to earth. From distant courtyards comes the sound of the lyre, gentle and melodic. The city breathes slowly, as if in contentment. You stand again by the river, older now, wider, reflecting the moon's pale light. Its waters move endlessly, carrying with them echoes of everything that has been built along its banks. Rome, once a village of shepherds, has become the heart of the world. Its stones hold the warmth of the sun. Its arches frame the sky. Its people walk with purpose, born of centuries. And as you watch the current flow, you realize growth, true growth, is not loud. It is steady, patient, enduring. Rome has mastered that art. It does not rush. It builds. It lasts. And beneath the quiet hum of the eternal city, you can almost hear it breathing, calm, unshaken, infinite. Imagine standing once more by the Tiber River, but this time the air feels heavier, not unpleasant, just older, slower. The water moves gently, but its edges are lined with silt and weeds that have gone untended. The city beyond still glows with torches and voices, yet you can sense a faint hesitation in the rhythm of Rome. It is the same Rome, and yet something invisible has shifted. The empire has grown vast, stretching farther than any mind can easily imagine. Its borders reach from the cold fog of Britannia to the bright sands of Egypt, from the vineyards of Gaul to the rivers of Mesopotamia. It is too large for any one pair of eyes to see, too complex for any one hand to guide. You walk through the streets, once swept each morning by servants, now dotted with fallen leaves and dust. The marble is still bright, but small cracks appear where once there were none. You notice it, not with alarm, but with quiet acceptance, like watching the first wrinkles form on a face long loved. Life continues, of course. The markets still open each morning. The aqueducts still hum with water, but the laughter feels different, softer, distracted. The empire has become comfortable, and comfort, when stretched too long, grows weary. In the Senate, men still speak of honor and destiny, but their voices echo through halls that feel more ceremonial than alive. Debates circle endlessly. Policies shift with the wind. And sometimes decisions are made not for Rome's good, but for the comfort of those seated nearest the marble benches. You find yourself in a bathhouse one afternoon, where the air is warm and perfumed with oil. The water laps gently against the stone, and men recline in idle conversation. They speak of past victories, of ancestors, of how glorious the old days must have been. There is pride, but also nostalgia, a longing for a time they never knew. Outside the city, the farms that once fed Rome's millions are changing. Some lie untended, others owned by a few wealthy families who rarely visit them. The small farmers, those who once formed the strength of Rome's heart, have drifted away, seeking work in the cities or the army. In their absence, the countryside grows quieter. The empire, for all its power, has become heavy with its own success. Managing so much land, so many people, requires endless attention. Governors, soldiers, laws, and taxes. Each decision ripples outward, slower now, heavier. The roads still stretch across continents, but their edges crumble under the weight of time. Beyond the borders, new peoples stir, not enemies, not yet, but neighbors, watching Rome's light flicker faintly across the horizon. Trade continues, but it feels more cautious. Messages take longer to arrive. Coins lose their shine. You can almost feel the empire exhale, as if tired from its own greatness. Yet, within this stillness, beauty remains. The artists continue to carve, the poets still write, the scholars still debate beneath the shade of olive trees. Even as order begins to loosen, the human spirit that Roman drive to build, to understand, to endure, does not fade. It simply changes shape. One evening, you visit the Forum, once a place of thunderous speeches and celebrations. Now it feels hushed. The statues of emperors stand tall, though their faces are worn smooth by wind. The people who pass by walk quietly, as if in reverence or perhaps uncertainty. You sit on a stone step and listen to the sound of footsteps, the rustle of parchment, the murmur of the crowd. It is still Rome, eternal, dignified, magnificent, but there is a gentler hum now. The empire no longer surges forward. It drifts. In the palaces, new rulers rise more often than before. Some are wise, some are ambitious, others merely temporary. The golden wreath of leadership passes from head to head like a crown made of autumn leaves, bright, fragile, fleeting. You remember the stories of the early kings, the first consuls, the builders of roads and aqueducts. Their names are still carved into marble, but few pause to read them now. History has grown thick with names, emperors, generals, philosophers, each one layered over the other like sediment on the bed of the Tiber. And perhaps that is what this moment is, a quiet sedimentation, the layering of centuries into stillness. Even as cracks form, life goes on. Children chase each other through the streets. Bakers still rise before dawn. A philosopher teaches in a courtyard, his words drifting softly into the afternoon air. There is no chaos, no collapse, only the slow turning of the wheel. Rome does not fall in this hour, it simply pauses. You look again at the city from a hilltop. The sunset bathes it in gold and rose, the rooftops glowing like embers. It is still breathtaking, the temples, the domes, the arches that frame the horizon. You realize that beauty does not end when perfection fades. Sometimes it deepens. There is wisdom in this quiet crisis, a reminder that all things, even greatness, need rest. Empires, like people, breathe in and out. They build and they pause. They rise and they learn to wait. As the sky deepens into violet, a light breeze stirs the olive leaves. You hear the faint song of a lyre from a nearby house. the melody slow and wistful. The river flows, as always, patient and sure. Rome endures, not through constant victory, but through stillness, reflection, and the simple rhythm of living. And perhaps that is what the gods intended all along. Not endless triumph, but balance. The quiet between the thunder, the pause between breaths, the grace of slowing down. You linger for a moment longer, feeling the weight and warmth of centuries pressing gently around you. Then, as the lamps flicker one by one along the streets, you close your eyes and let the hum of Rome's heartbeat carry you into the calm of night. The empire rests, the city sleeps, and so do you. Imagine waking before sunrise in a city that has known centuries of daylight. The sky above Rome glows faintly, a pale gold spreading across the horizon, touching the domes, arches, and rooftops with promise. The streets are quiet, save for the soft steps of bakers preparing their morning bread. The creak of wooden shutters opening to the first light. You can sense it, the faint stirring of something new. Rome is no longer the restless conqueror it once was. Its edges have softened, its ambitions refined. The empire, though vast, begins to look inward, toward the art of endurance, not expansion. The crisis has passed, leaving behind a gentle wisdom, a sense of humility wrapped in marble and time. You walk through the Forum again. The columns still rise tall, though vines curl playfully around their bases. Statues of emperors stand as if listening, not for applause, but for understanding. The air feels different now, calmer. Once, this was the heart of political thunder. Now it feels like a garden of memory. Change does not come to Rome with noise or revolt. It arrives quietly through thought, faith, and adaptation. In the libraries, scholars pore over scrolls, not to command armies, but to rediscover ideas. They copy, translate, and preserve knowledge from Greece, from Egypt, from the East. They debate the movements of stars, the nature of virtue, the meaning of justice. For the first time in a long while, Rome's greatest conquest is not land, but wisdom. In the homes of ordinary citizens, life has found new rhythm. Families gather around small altars, not to honor forgotten gods of war, but to seek peace, guidance, and community. A quiet transformation of spirit is unfolding, one that will one day reach every corner of the empire. You pass a basilica once, a place of commerce, now repurposed for reflection and prayer. Its wide halls echo with soft voices, their tones humble and unhurried. Lamps flicker in the dim light, and incense rises like gentle mist. The old and the new mingle here. Marble floors, built for merchants, now carry the feet of pilgrims. It is not just faith that changes Rome. The world itself begins to shift. Trade routes realign, cultures mix, old cities learn new languages. The empire's borders may waver, but its influence deepens. Ideas, inventions, and philosophies flow outward like the Tiber, spreading far beyond the 7 hills. You find yourself walking along one of the great roads again, this time heading east. The stones are weathered, yet firm beneath your sandals. Villages appear and fade along the way, each one carrying traces of Rome, the arches, the baths, the script carved into milestones. Even in distant lands, people speak of Rome not just as a place, but as a way, a pattern of order, law, and learning. The empire's body may tire, but its spirit travels endlessly. Somewhere beyond the horizon, new powers begin to rise, kingdoms, faiths, and ideas that look upon Rome not as rival, but as teacher. You realize then that empires do not truly end. They evolve into stories, customs, and legacies. In the heart of the city, artists continue to work. Mosaics shimmer with color, depicting scenes of daily life, shepherds, fishermen, lovers beneath olive trees. Sculptors carve faces that seem almost alive, not to glorify emperors, but to celebrate humanity. Even as wealth grows uneven and politics falter, art becomes Rome's quiet answer to impermanence. At night, the city glows again, though softer than before. Torches flicker in courtyards, music drifts from open windows. You hear laughter, gentle, unguarded, as families share stories of ancestors, of heroes, of gods both old and new. You pause by the riverbank. The Tiber moves, as it always has, slow, constant, unbothered by the rise and fall of rulers. You watch its reflection. The city lights shimmer on the water's surface, wavering but never lost. This, you think, is what Rome has learned, that strength is not only in conquest, but in continuity, that to survive is to change. The dawn of change does not erase the past. It gathers it, like sunlight, collecting over the stones. The old temples still stand, their gods silent but not forgotten. The new faith grows quietly beside them, whispering of hope, mercy, and peace. For the first time in centuries, the empire feels not invincible, but human. You walk through a garden near the Palatine Hill. Olive trees sway gently in the breeze, and the scent of rosemary lingers in the air. Philosophers still gather here, their robes dusted with pollen and sunlight. They speak not of war, but of harmony between man and nature, between the living and the divine. It is peaceful, this Rome of renewal. The people still labor, still dream, still remember. They build fewer monuments now, but write more words that will survive even when stone crumbles. Historians, poets, and monks begin to preserve what once seemed too ordinary to record. Recipes, songs, proverbs, stories, whispered by the old to the young. Slowly, the empire transforms from power to memory, a transition as delicate as twilight. And yet, there is no sadness in this change, only acceptance, only calm. As evening falls, you find yourself once more on a high terrace overlooking the city. The same city, and yet entirely new. The air smells of baking bread and rain on stone. Below, you see lamps flicker like stars fallen to earth. Above, the real stars appear, ancient and familiar. Rome sleeps, not in decline, but in renewal, learning that even greatness must rest, dream, and begin again. The Tiber flows, the stars remain, and Rome, forever changing, forever enduring, watches the dawn rise, not for conquest, but for understanding. Imagine standing on a hill, far from Rome itself, perhaps in Gaul or Hispania, or a quiet town near the blue edge of the Mediterranean. The air carries the scent of pine and salt, and though centuries have passed since the first Roman roads were laid, you can still trace their lines across the earth. You are no longer in the empire's heart, yet Rome is everywhere. The language of its laws lingers in courts and councils. Its arches still hold the weight of bridges that span rivers across continents. Even the way people build their towns, the squares, the forums, the fountains, follows patterns born under Roman skies. The empire may have dissolved into smaller realms, but its rhythm remains. Walk down any cobbled street in a European city, and you walk in Rome's footsteps. Hear the murmur of scholars in a library, and you hear the echoes of Cicero's thought, of Seneca's calm philosophy. Look at the letters carved above a church door, and you see the alphabet that once marked Roman decrees. Rome has not vanished. It has transformed into the language of civilization itself. In the east, Byzantium carries the torch, a new Rome shining in marble and gold beside the Bosporus. Its domes gleam beneath the rising sun. Its scholars preserve the works of Plato, Aristotle, and Livy. The empire's spirit, reborn in this eastern light, continues to bridge ancient wisdom and new faith. In the west, kingdoms rise on land that once bore Roman legions. They inherit not the armies, but the order, the systems of law, the memory of roads, the idea that a world can be united by reason rather than force. Roman influence becomes invisible architecture, guiding thought and governance like a silent compass. Even in lands Rome never ruled, its vision travels. Merchants and monks carry fragments of its knowledge: medicine, mathematics, architecture, philosophy. Each fragment takes root, blending with local soil, growing into something new, yet unmistakably Roman. And as time flows, the world begins to rediscover what Rome once knew, that greatness is not a single act, but a long conversation between past and present. Imagine, for a moment, a scholar in a candlelit room, perhaps in a monastery on a distant hill. He copies lines from a faded Latin text, his hand steady, his breath quiet. Outside, the wind stirs through cypress trees. He does not think of himself as rebuilding an empire, yet each stroke of his pen keeps Rome alive. The words he preserves will one day awaken in minds that speak new languages, in cities that did not yet exist. In art and architecture, Rome's presence endures like a heartbeat beneath the centuries. The domes of cathedrals rise in imitation of Roman temples. The arches of aqueducts become symbols of strength and grace. Painters and sculptors, centuries later, will look back to these forms as if recalling a dream, the perfect balance between human skill and divine proportion. You find yourself walking through a Renaissance square now, Florence, perhaps, or Venice. The light falls on stone as it did on the Forum long ago. Artists speak of vertic and humanatis, old Roman words reborn with fresh meaning. Philosophers study Cicero's rhetoric, poets imitate Virgil's rhythm, and architects trace their compasses over marble, seeking that ancient harmony between form and function. Rome breathes again through them. But its legacy is not only found in beauty, it is also in the way people think, govern, and connect. The Roman idea that laws should outlast rulers, that citizenship carries both privilege and duty, these ideas ripple outward through time, shaping nations, charters, and constitutions. Even far from the Mediterranean, in lands once unknown to Roman maps, people build their republics upon principles first spoken in the Senate. The words Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and people of Rome, become a quiet ancestor to modern voices that still speak of freedom and order. Yet, as powerful as Rome's political shadow is, its softer gifts endure just as deeply. The language of Latin, flowing like a river through time, becoming the root of so many tongues. French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, all carry the rhythm of Rome's speech, the cadence of its poetry. Even in distant languages, its influence hums like an echo in the background of thought. Walk now through the ruins of the eternal city itself. The marble has aged, the columns weathered by centuries of rain and wind. Grass grows where senators once debated, and the Colosseum stands like a giant's skeleton, magnificent even in decay. But the ruins do not mourn. They glow with quiet dignity, content in their endurance. Birds nest among the arches, children play among the stones, and tourists walk slowly, whispering as if in a temple. Rome has become a teacher, not a ruler. Its greatness no longer depends on conquest, but on memory. It reminds the world that all things built by hands will fade, yet what is built by spirit endures. The Romans themselves once believed in Fortuna, fortune, a goddess who turned her wheel endlessly, raising and lowering empires in her whim. But perhaps the truer wisdom lies in what Rome became after fortune turned, not broken, but diffused, its essence spread across the very fabric of humanity. The law in a courtroom, the curve of a dome, the language of a poem, the dream of order amid chaos. These are Rome now. As night falls over the modern world, city lights twinkle like constellations across the earth. If you look closely, you can trace patterns familiar from the old maps, roads that mirror ancient paths, cities that still rest where Roman planners once stood with their measuring rods and dreams. The eternal city, in truth, was never just a place. It was an idea that people, through reason and art, could bring structure to the vastness of existence, that beauty and order could live side by side. And even now, 2,000 years later, that idea still burns, quiet, constant, like a small flame that refuses to die. You breathe in, and for a moment, you feel connected to every soul who ever walked those ancient streets, to every mason who laid a stone, every poet who wrote by lamplight, every traveler who followed the road home. Rome and the world are no longer separate. The world is Rome, reborn again and again in every language, every law, every dream of something lasting. And as the stars rise over the sleeping earth, you realize that eternity was never about power. It was always about memory. Rome remembered, and through that remembrance, it still lives. Imagine yourself standing once more at the edge of the Tiber. The river glides past, as it always has, patient, unhurried, whispering the same lullaby it sang to shepherds, to emperors, to dreamers, long before you. The air is cool and scented with wet stone and cypress. The city around you hums softly, modern now, yet ancient beneath its skin. Cars move where chariots once rolled. Glass towers rise beside crumbling arches. And yet, somehow, everything feels connected. This is Rome, not the empire, but the essence. The idea that time does not destroy, it transforms. You walk slowly through the old streets. The cobblestones, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, shine faintly in the evening light, between ancient columns and modern cafes. The rhythm of the city continues, a blend of memory and motion, of silence and laughter. Here, every stone is both past and present. You pause before a broken column, its capital, weathered by rain and wind. A vine has wrapped itself around it, its green tendrils curling into the cracks. It feels less like decay and more like continuation, nature and history growing together, quietly agreeing to share eternity. You realize then that Rome's truest legacy is not the marble or the monuments, but the ability to endure through change. Centuries have passed since the last emperor's voice faded yet the spirit of Rome lingers in 1,000 forms in the design of cities, in the symmetry of buildings, in the logic of laws, in the poetry of languages, even in the way people think about order, beauty, and justice. Rome whispers there. You step into a small piazza where the air smells of bread and rain. Children chase pigeons across the stones, their laughter echoing against ancient walls. A musician plays a soft tune on his violin. The melody drifts upward, weaving through the arches and balconies like a breeze through olive leaves. And as you watch, you realize this too is Rome, not just the empire of soldiers and emperors, but the city of bakers, builders, and dreamers, the place where the ordinary and the eternal live side by side. Somewhere nearby, in a quiet church, a candle flickers beside a marble statue of a saint. The Latin inscription carved below it reads softly, Lux perpetua lucit eyes, may perpetual light shine upon them. The words are old, yet the prayer feels new. It could be spoken for Rome itself, the wish that its light, even if gentle, never fully fade. As the evening deepens, the bells begin to ring. Their tones drift across the rooftops, mingling with the call of swallows and the distant murmur of conversation. The sound feels timeless, as if the centuries between the Republic and now have folded into a single moment of stillness. Rome has become a bridge across time. Its people, past, present, and future, meet here, quietly, in the echo of stone and sky. You walk toward the Forum one last time. It is nearly empty now. The ruins glow softly in the golden light of sunset. Where senators once argued, grass now sways. Where triumphal processions once passed, cats wander lazily through fallen columns. And yet there is peace in this stillness, a peace that speaks of completion, not loss. The city does not mourn its past. It carries it gently, like a melody remembered rather than a glory demanded. Standing here, you can almost hear the faint rhythm of history beneath your feet, not the march of legions, but the quiet beat of continuity. It says, all things change, all things endure. Rome has given the world many gifts, architecture, law, language, governance. But perhaps its greatest gift is perspective, the understanding that civilization is not a moment, but a process, that greatness is not noise or conquest, but the steady act of building, learning, and passing wisdom onward. Every age that followed Rome has borrowed a little of its spirit from the scholars who preserved its texts, to the dreamers of the Renaissance who revived its beauty, to the nations that built their laws upon its reason. Even the digital world of today, with its networks and systems, reflects Rome's ancient desire for connection, to bring order to vastness, to make the world one. You lean against a low wall and watch the sky darken. The first stars appear, faint but clear above the horizon. Somewhere behind you, voices rise in laughter, a language shaped by Latin, yet alive in its own way. You smile. The legacy continues, not as imitation, but as evolution. Perhaps that is the secret of eternity, to be reborn, not repeated. Rome has learned this lesson well. It does not live as it once did, but as it must, through memory, influence, and imagination, through the quiet persistence of beauty. You close your eyes for a moment and listen to the hum of the city, the murmur of the river, the whisper of leaves in the evening breeze. It all blends together into a single sound, ancient, gentle, eternal. When you open your eyes again, the moon has risen. It glows above the ruins, turning the marble silver, You think of all the hands that once built these stones, the minds that once dreamed of them, and the countless lives that have passed since. And yet, here it all remains, not untouched, but alive. Rome's future, you realize, is not behind it, but within us, in every structure built with care. Every idea shaped by balance, every act of preservation and creation. Wherever humanity reaches for something lasting, something harmonious, Rome breathes again. The eternal city does not ask to be remembered. It simply continues to exist in memory, quietly, gracefully, forever. As you turn to leave, the bells sound once more, low, resonant, patient. The night folds gently around the city, and the stars shine brighter above the Tiber. You walk away slowly, footsteps soft upon the ancient stones, and somewhere deep inside you, you know Rome never truly ended. It only became part of everything. The river flows on, carrying with it the reflections of past and present. And you, one more traveler among millions, follow its song into the endless night. And now, our journey comes to rest. The voices of Rome grow softer, the builders, the thinkers, the poets, all fading gently into the folds of time. The marble streets lie quiet beneath the moon, and the river still flows, as it always has, carrying the memories of centuries downstream. You, dear traveler, have walked through ages. You felt the rhythm of the empire's rise, the hush of its transformation, and the calm of its enduring legacy. And now, back in this quiet moment, you are home, not in Rome, but in the stillness of your own present. The walls around you are warm, the air is calm, the world outside has slowed to a whisper. Let the lessons of Rome, endurance, grace, and continuity, settle softly in your thoughts. Let them become dreams of marble cities, sunlit courtyards, and gentle rivers that never end. Close your eyes. The empire sleeps, and so can you. For history, like the night, always watches over those who listen. And somewhere beneath stars that once shone on the eternal city, time itself hums a lullaby just for you. Sleep well, traveler. Tomorrow waits beyond the Tiber's song.